So here we are. Welcome, guys. If you guys have not seen me complete the game, I have just completed the playthrough of Hogwarts Legacy. So I think there's going to be about 17 parts, 16, 17 parts. We currently have 15 parts on YouTube, but today we did a 4-hour stream and we finally completed Hogwarts Legacy. Now in total we probably had about 40 hours gameplay completed. With that said, we've completed the game. I've let it sit, I've let it marinate. I now want to give it like an overall rating, but I'm going to give it a few breakdowns. So we've got the combat, we've got graphics, we've got difficulty, and we've got story. So that's what we're going to be going through. For the story, it wasn't too crazy, but I think like the missions themselves, the way they kind of like played out with the gameplay, made the story a bit more enjoyable. It was kind of difficult to keep track just because of how much dialogue there was. It wasn't so much difficult to understand, it was more because there was so much dialogue, I kind of just got bored of a lot of the dialogue, so I kind of like skipped through a lot of the dialogue and stuff like that. So that was one of the issues with the story, but overall the story was pretty good. I think with the flow of it, you being a student who can see kind of like a magic that no one else can see kind of thing, and then you're being hunted down by these two bad guys throughout the whole story because you know this magic and they're trying to get hold of this magic too. I think it's very interesting. It was a bit of a drag, especially with a lot of the dialogue kind of talking to you like you're a 2-year-old. Now this game has a lot to it. I am nowhere near done with this game. This game is huge, it's massive, and there's so many side missions to do and so many classes and so much to do and explore. I've basically just did the main story missions. I avoided doing side missions. This game does force you to do side missions. A lot of the spells you learn, you have to go and do side missions and avoid doing the main missions. There is a few spells you learn through doing main missions, but it's not many. If you want to learn extra stuff, you have to go do the side quests. A lot of the main missions are locked behind level process. So it's like you get to one mission, it will say to do this mission you need to be level 24 or level 22, whatever, right? Which forces you to go and explore, level up with XP, do side missions, get a bit more XP. So there is that. I am gonna say, with the story itself, I'm gonna give it an 8. I'm gonna give it an 8. The main focus of the story was interesting, but it did kind of drag. There was a lot of extra stuff that didn't need to be in there. I skipped through a lot of the dialogue because there was so much dialogue, and I don't have a problem with dialogue in a game because one of my favorite games is The Witcher 3, and everyone knows The Witcher 3 has very long dialogue. There's a lot of talking you can do in the game and explaining and all that kind of stuff. So the pacing of it was good, but it's more of the tone they talk to you. Like I say, they talk to you like you're a 2-year-old, and I get it because you are a kid, you're a teenager in a school, and these are teachers teaching you, so they kind of have to talk to you in a certain way, which I get. It was almost like watching a kid's cartoon. It kind of gets brain dumbing after a while, especially after hours of listening to it. So I skipped a lot of the dialogue half the time. So because of that reason, I'm going to give it an 8. That's my overall rating for the story. Now when it comes to the combat in the game, the combat in the game is different to most other games. It's definitely different, it's unique, and it does have a cool style to it. There's just a few issues with the combat. I think the overuse of shields is a bit too much. Everyone has shields, like all these different enemies have different types of shields that you have to kill in a different kind of way. Bear in mind, I did play the game on hard, so that might tinker with the combat a little bit, but it wasn't the smoothest experience. There wasn't really a heavy attack. You have a light attack and a heavy attack, but the heavy attack, the only way of doing a heavy attack in this game was basically after doing a free single combo with the basic attack. So you have to do a combo to be able to even do a heavy attack. So you do like 3 light attacks and then it automatically does a heavy attack. The fact that you have to do like a whole combo to be able to get that is ridiculous, because especially like I say, you've got to do a lot of dodge rolling, you've got to do a lot of blocking, and that interrupts that combo a lot of the time, and it doesn't do that much damage. And like I say, the look of it is cool. It's a very unique combat style. I've never seen this type of combat in any other game, especially because it's to do with wands, so it kind of makes sense, like the way it is. It was enjoyable to a certain extent. Maybe they just didn't design the game well around playing it on a hard difficulty. There's like a little cooldown in between being able to dodge and block, so you can't do it instantly after, and during that time the enemy can attack you again. It's like I say, it wasn't the smoothest experience to combat, so for that reason I'm gonna give the combat a 7. I'm gonna give the combat a 7. I think if it run a bit smoother, I would push the combat to an 8. I just come off the back of playing God of War, and God of War combat was the best combat I've probably played in a video game in a long ass time. Now coming to the graphics. Now the graphics in this game, again, speak for themselves. It's a massive open world RPG game. The graphics are incredible. Now the animations are smooth. I think the mechanics to like climbing and rolling and jumping, it's silky smooth. It is really good. And for saying how big the world is, now there wasn't many render distance issues where like I'm walking around and everything's pixelated or nothing renders in time. Everything seems to sync very well going into new areas. Loading screens wasn't too much of an issue either. I had no problems with the graphics in this game. There's smoke coming off of the back, or heat waves coming off the back of the broom, you can see. So there is really good graphics and physics in this game, but it wasn't like overly too crazy. Like you can kind of tell, even just by looking at my character model, it's kind of like Play-Doh'd out a little bit. I think with this day and age, the graphics are top notch. I especially wasn't expecting this kind of level out of this game. The game is incredible for what it is. So for the graphics, I'm going to give the graphics an 8.5. And then now we get to the difficulty. Now, tying the difficulty with the combat. Now, it could have been different on a lower difficulty. Healing potions, you needed a lot of healing potions, like a lot. It was pretty much impossible playing this game without healing potions. Then even after dodging or blocking, you get hit instantly after, so you still take damage. You're basically just preventing yourself from taking more damage with block or dodging. Like, so that's basically what it is. The difficulty wasn't too bad until towards the end of the game. For the majority of the game, I had no issues. Most of the enemies were hitting me one shot after hitting me once. Now, I think for this game, like I said, I don't think they based this game around a hard difficulty because of how unsmooth the experience was playing it on hard. It wasn't the hardest game I've ever played, but it didn't feel like a challenging enough difficulty. It just felt like annoyingly hard, you know what I mean? It was kind of like they just making you take more damage for no reason. I'm gonna say the difficulty is a 6. I think it's very average. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't fun, it wasn't challenging, it was just annoying. I didn't find it too difficult till towards the end of the game, so for that I'm going to give it quite a low rating. Now I base my rating off, obviously if it's a 10 then it means it's like it's scaled correctly to the game. They've obviously purposely made the game balanced around a hard difficulty. Everyone's going to have a different opinion, and as well it might come to skill issue to some games. I try and play all the games on hard though, just to give it kind of like a fair understanding of the mechanics and combat. Overall rating for the game. Now I don't want to compare this game to God of War because there's nothing like God of War. It's nothing like God of War, but I can't give it a high rating. But it is a really good game. Obviously the combat isn't the greatest mechanically smooth. I don't think the combat is polished out great, but everything else is great, you know. Dialogue, story, the universe itself is great. So I think the overall rating for this game is probably an 8.5. I'm gonna give this game an 8.5 out of 10 overall rating. That is my final decision on this game. I appreciate you guys watching this. If you guys have not watched the playthrough, I recommend going back and watching the playthrough. I've got the God of War playthrough on there. I've got the Back 4 Blood playthrough on YouTube. I've got obviously this now as well on YouTube, and I did do a final ratings video as well on God of War if you want to go check that out. So we're going to be doing a lot of playthroughs of single player games and doing stuff like this. Give it a comment on your thoughts on what you think in the comment section. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.